Hey there, lady. I'm Molly Connolly, your coach and hype woman on this journey to transforming your love life. Whether you're navigating life after divorce, exploring the world of online dating, or deepening the connection in your committed relationship, I'm here for you. Why me? Because I walked this path myself. From filing for divorce just 3 years into marriage, to swimming in the online dating pool into my late 30s, and finally marrying the man of my spreadsheet dreams right before the world changed forever. I've seen it all. As a relationship coach, I empower women to create love lives filled with clarity, connection, and confidence. This podcast is all about building a strong foundation for a healthy relationship with yourself and your future partner. I believe the man of your spreadsheet dreams is worth the wait, and together we'll ensure that you are ready for him when he arrives. Join me each week as we dive into insightful discussions and hear from savvy guests. You'll gain the courage to break free from limiting beliefs, recognize and change patterns that are holding you back, and learn to prioritize the number one relationship in your life, the one you have with yourself. So let's embark on this exciting journey together. Welcome to Reinventing the Arena. Hey there, lady. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Brad is here for a couch conversation about the importance of men's friendships and how friendships can impact your relationship. But before we get started, I wanted to shout out to all the new listeners to the show, including listeners as far north as Alaska and even those living in Australia. I always enjoy seeing how far the podcast goes, as well as hearing from you no matter if you're a longtime listener or new to the show. As always, hit subscribe or follow so you never miss an episode, or just subscribe to my email list. Those ladies are always the first to know about any events, courses, services, and even my personal updates that I may have. Plus, they receive additional ways to help themselves reinvent their love lives from the inside out, and I don't share that anywhere else. I'll include the links in the show notes. So, babe, it's been a while since you've been on the show.
Yes, it has. Glad to be back.
One of the reasons why I wanted to have you to talk about men's friendships on the show was because you went on a week-long vacation with your guy friends to Portland in July.
Yeah, so one of my best friends lives in Portland and has the last several years. And myself and two of our other high school friends got together. We've been planning this for several months. We've done this type of thing many times over the years. One of my friends lives in Chicago, one of them lives in Phoenix, one lives in Portland, and obviously I live in St. Louis. So a lot of the times we met in Chicago for a weekend or an extended weekend. We did before we got married, because that's pretty easy to get to. But we make it a point to get together at least once every other year. Non-holiday, just to hang out. We even took the year we all turned 40. This friend who lives in Portland now was living in New York City, and we all went to visit him in New York for a week. And I'd never been to New York, and that was a really good time. So yeah, I felt that it was time that we all made it out to Portland again. We've been there 2 other times in the past 10 years, but since it's kind of the farthest for him to travel, I wanted to make sure we got out there to go see him. So started putting that together probably in January or February or maybe before that, and had some Zoom meetings. And I believe I was the one who just said, hey, I'm looking at these dates, and they said okay, and so I said okay, book my flight, so we're coming. So that kind of spurred everybody else on. So yeah, we had a great time.
What did you guys end up seeing in Portland? What were some fun activities that you guys shared together?
We drove out to the Columbia River Gorge one day and did a little hike in the mountains there, and then went to a brewery that kind of overlooked the river there. That day was cut a little short by some crazy traffic, but that was fun. We had great weather while we were doing that, and then we spent a night on the Oregon coast. We went the opposite directions to the west. His family had a house on the Oregon coast, a small little town up there. So we went there and hung out.
The photos that you took were really amazing.
My goal is to have a fire on the beach because my friend said we'd be able to do that. And so we made that happen. It didn't occur until midnight, but that made it awesome. Had a great fire on the beach and hung out there for 3 hours. And then, the morning, just kind of had a lazy morning, went to breakfast and drove back. And we went to a few places around town in Portland that we'd never been to before. One was a bar at the top of really tall buildings. We could see the whole city. We got some portraits taken at JCPenney,
Oh
which
yeah.
I'm sure will be mentioned on the podcast at some point.
Oh yeah. Like if you ladies follow me on Instagram, it was probably right when you returned from your trip. I was showing some photos that your friends have taken over the years.
Yeah.
And one of them is the photo of the three of them posing in the same color of shirt, or same shirt actually, with some fun props. I think there's like swords and I don't know, pineapple in the first one, or coconut. And you were given that as a wedding gift at your first wedding. And then for our wedding, they found out that I loved that photo so much. Like we hung it up in the apartment during the pandemic because it was hilarious. And they got us a pillow and a blanket of them doing the exact same thing, but different outfits this time, updated photos. And so when they went, all gathered in Portland, you or someone made a joke about going to JCPenney to do these photos. And I was like, it's going to happen. And so I think I looked at shirts that night when you were just getting off your Zoom call, and you sent it to them. And you guys made it happen.
Yeah, they were happy to do it. We did have fun. We got some good shots.
I can't wait because I want to get that boy band look together. So I will share what that looks like at some point. But what I love about you and your friends is that not only do I completely trust you, but I trust your friends. And I've been in relationships in the past where that hasn't been the case. And nights out, let alone a week trip, would be nerve-wracking or even harmful to that past relationship. So to start us off, I want to highlight 8 green flags for the ladies listening that I see in your friendships, but also ones that they can notice as they either develop a relationship with someone or can see in their partner's current friendships. Because green flags in a man's friendship can be excellent indicators of his character and the type of support network he maintains. So number 1 is respectful communication. They communicate with each other in a respectful way, even if or when they disagree. There's no name calling, there's no belittling or even passive aggressive behavior.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not. I mean, we've literally almost never been in fights, hardly disagreements, hardly, anything that would constitute us wanting to actually seriously name call each other. I mean, we name called each other for fun, but never out
nothing that's like harmful.
Yeah, nothing ever out of a disagreement or a fight. We've been probably drunk a couple of times and maybe said a few things, but like, no, for this, for as long as we've been friends, I definitely say we communicate well in a respectful way.
Okay. Well, number 2 is great because it kind of leads into that, is conflict resolution. So handling conflicts in a mature and healthy way, talking things through openly rather than resorting to drama or avoidance. This is just going to show that they value that friendship and are committed to resolving issues.
Yeah, I mean, and we have no problem talking with each other. And, usually on the trips, we always have, at least 1 or 2 kind of deeper conversations. We talk about our relationships. We talk about, always talk about politics, get into beliefs, religion, or, those types of things, but it's, we can always bring it back to, pretty light stuff too. But, we always know that we can delve into those types of things and everybody will respect what everybody else says.
Which is why then we go into number 3 is positive influences. So you would want to be looking at his friendships and seeing how they influence him in a positive way. So like his behavior, lifestyle choices, even his outlook on life. So for example, they can motivate him to pursue his goals, engage in healthy habits, or even just think differently about life's challenges.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have an influence on my life. And, some of those deep conversations I mentioned, probably driven decisions in all of our lives. We talk about job changes, potential job changes, potential, moving cities. When I was going to quit my job and move, I talked to those guys about it. They're always, encouraging and they're excited about it, and they thought it was a good idea. Same with another guy in the group when he was thinking about switching jobs. We're like, oh yeah, we totally think you should, give him some, constructive reasons why, we think that, and not in a negative way, but it's like, oh yeah, we, encourage each other.
Yeah, constructive support to show that he's capable of those things.
Exactly.
And number 4, which actually leads in from what you were just saying, is the emotional support and vulnerability. So Friends would provide emotional support and they are comfortable sharing their feelings and being vulnerable with each other. So this is going to show that they value genuine connections and are likely to encourage mental and emotional health.
Yeah, well, I mean, we all know anytime we're together, it's a safe space, so as much as we are constantly joking, giving each other shit and having fun, like we all know that anytime we can flip that and like get personal and like dig deep in things and, not, you know, there's no risk being vulnerable, in this group because we've all done it and we all know other people can understand. And so, like I said, it's a safe space. We all know we can talk to each other about anything.
Yeah, the benefits there is that if as soon as one person does, another person's going to open up. And it just continues to really build that genuine connection that grows over time with each other.
Yeah. And I think it helps some of those, that aren't used to that as much. It helps them grow in that way and feel
Exactly.
fair.
Exactly. So then number 5 kind of goes into this too, is inclusivity. So his friends are inclusive, and kind of just like how I mentioned the fun photo, is that they make an effort to involve you in social gatherings or activities. So they respect your presence, they make you feel welcome. And this means that they suggest they value the role that you play in their friend's life.
Well, I remember even from the very first time, I know you met my friends pretty quickly. I happen to have a couple, two of the three guys were in town like within 2 weeks after we met.
Well, but that's also because it was right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was around a holiday, so I really wanted you to meet them because they were going to be around. So I know that was kind of interesting to you to meet those guys.
That's not.
But it was great.
It obviously paid
Yeah,
off.
it was great to meet them early on because you could see, and I know you noted this after we were together. You saw how we interacted, so you kind of got what was going on
Mm-hmm.
with how our friendship worked. What we were all about. So I think that was really nice, and the fact that I did, you did mention to me before we got married about how much you liked that photo, that goofy photo of them together, and I mentioned that to them, and I told them I would really like in all seriousness, she would really like something like that, and I didn't push it a whole lot, and I didn't keep saying make sure you do this, make sure you do this.
Yeah.
But so that way, when we did open that box at our wedding reception, it was a genuine surprise. And I felt that was super nice of them to do that again, for us and especially for you.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited. I mean, we took a photo of the next day of me napping with the blanket.
Yeah.
And we have the pillow and the blanket in our living room. That's how much we love this thing. Actually, how much I love it.
When I brought it up again, asking if we could maybe do it in Portland now that I would be present, because I haven't been in these photos.
Yeah.
Because Molly would love one with all of us. They were all game. They knew that they would be fun. I had to push a little, to make it happen with logistics to make sure it got done. But like everybody was into it once we left and went to Goodwill and went to JCPenney. And in the moment when we did it and when we were done, we were like, oh, that was fun. We look at the photos and that was a good time. So
I'm going to make a few things from the photos. I've seen them. I haven't shared them with anybody yet, but oh my gosh. But what I like too, though, is I know that you guys don't see each other a lot. It's not like they live down the street or you guys all live in the same town or even two people do, but each person still involves an aspect of their life with each other in a way that if they have someone, that person is there, or meaning like when we get together, if we're all there for Christmas, we still like the couples come around and still see each other. Or if let's say if you and one of them was in town, he's cool if I join just to see you guys for a hot minute and then bounce to let you guys.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely not implied that only the guys can hang out.
Right.
They're all, two of the other ones are in relationships and those people are around. So when some are in town from Chicago, it's definitely gonna be a couples thing.
Right.
Because I want that too, because it's fun that way, and I want to have that dynamic as well, because I've hung out with them plenty, in one-on-one or just the four of us and guys, situations. So I like having our seeing others there as well too. That brings a new and dynamic to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so because Brad's mentioned this too, and sometimes this isn't always true, but number 6 is longevity and consistency. So long-term friendships that have, weather those ups and downs usually indicate loyalty, commitment, and the ability to maintain meaningful connections over time. And if there's consistent behavior over the years, it can also be a sign of stable and healthy relationships. Now, like I said, though, is sometimes these longer relationships don't always mean that they're healthy. And we will get into some of those indicators further in of the conversation. But Yours are definitely more of a, we have met in high school. We actually have fun stories together. We've built this amazing connection and friendship, and it's lasted, you know, 20, 30 years, right?
Yeah, I mean the one who lives in Portland, I've known him for over 33 years. The others for around 30. Met in high school, hung out in high school. We're all in band together, which kind of started things and grew from there. And we may not talk. We don't. Each of us talks one on one once in a while. We'll text each other once in a
Yeah.
while, for birthdays and once a month check in, things like that. So we don't spend a whole lot of time communicating when we're not together. But like once we're on a Zoom, like it's like we're together. It's like no time has passed at all. It's like picking up for the very last time because we've done this so many times over the years with it on the trips or whatever. Now lately, Zoom during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we started. That's one of the good things that came out of the pandemic. I think at least we're using that to our advantages now. Where I'm like, hey, let's hop on a Zoom because we can do that
Yeah.
and see each other and have an hour conversation, catch up,
Sometimes longer.
and it's fun. Yeah, and it's fun. It's sometimes hard to coordinate times. 3 different time zones, but it's still cool. And it's like, we don't really have to ask, oh, what's been going on since the last time. It's just like,
Yeah.
you know, quick catch up, or we start talking about some random stuff sometimes. Or some, I mean, we're not that geographically close at all. We haven't been for a long time, but we've really never drifted that far apart. We're just the next, text or Zoom away.
And another thing that I did not bring up here, but it's kind of how the inclusivity with bringing in either other people like ladies into the conversation is like number 7, respect for women. Demonstrating respect for women both in their actions and words is, to me, very critical in a relationship. So they speak kindly and are respectful about the other people's partners and don't engage in degrading jokes or comments about women.
We were all single at one point. No, I think, obviously we don't have the same conversations when our significant others are around, as we do when we're just by ourselves. No matter, we've obviously had different partners throughout the years, and everybody's always been, respectful. And I think even when one person is maybe bringing a problem with their significant other to the table and talking about it, they're constructive and they just try to help, and they're not like, oh yeah, she's a bitch or this or
Right.
that or whatever. Like, oh, what are you doing? It's definitely always been more constructive and more helpful, to the individual talking that is about like, trashing the person that they're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, like that's another flip side to when I'm hanging out with my friends, the friendships that I have now versus friends that I've had in the past. When they talked shit about their partners, it always would bring me down and impact my relationship. So I know how important it is to also have friends who, if they want to, they can vent, but they're not constantly like degrading their husbands or degrading their current partner. It is really important to make sure that that's something that goes both ways. So number 8, reciprocity. There's a balance of give and take in the friendship. So he and his friends, they support each other, and that is not a one-sided relationship. So this balance indicates mutual respect and genuine care for each other.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of touched on this. We can definitely always count on each other to support, for pretty much anything. If any of us want to talk about, anything going on in our lives, we know that we can. I mean, maybe we don't always do that, but I think that we always know we can count on them for support. And it's not, like you said, it's reciprocal. It's, it goes both ways. We all know that any one of us can come to any one of the other and like talk about something. And I think a lot of times, when we visit one-on-one, sometimes, get together in different combinations and that plays out, as well. I kind of see it, playing out when we're all together, but also when we're on different combinations of each other hanging out.
Okay. So overall, paying attention to how he talks about his friends and how he interacts with them in person is important. So notice if the friendship brings out the best in him, makes him feel supported, and aligns with the values that are both important to him and you. And while these are things to notice in a man's friendship, it's extremely important for men to have strong and healthy relationships. A 2021 American survey reported that men have fewer social ties overall than they used to, with only 27% of men saying they had at least 6 close friends compared to 55% in 1990. So this suggests that men might be suffering from friendship recession, and this is likely affecting their health and happiness. So men who do not have close friendships not only have a higher risk of depression, but it increases their stress, which impacts their heart health. So ladies, if you are in a committed relationship, make sure your man not only has time with his friends, maybe at least once a week, but also communicating with those good friends regularly. Make sure he's, involved in hobbies that he enjoys with other men too. So like this could be mountain biking, playing in a band, or even just a fantasy sports league. Plus, his guy time is extremely helpful for you and your romantic relationship. In a healthy relationship, it's going to give you a moment to reconnect with yourself before then reconnecting with your partner to hear about the fun activities that he just enjoyed with his friends. So, like whenever you come home from your guys' trip or share a story about a time you had with your friends, your face lights up, your voice changes, and I see how much you care about your friends, and it really does light me up for you.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I do love to tell you stories about us, and it's not just because they're funny, but it's important to me to let you know like how important my time with them is, and how much fun it is, and how happy it makes me, because I know that makes you happy, and it's just fun to tell those stories because I know that you're seeing me light up, and I'm seeing you light up because of that, and so it's not just like, hey, I have a funny story. It's like I want to share it with you because I know that it's going to make you happy if I do.
Now I know we've been sharing all the good things about your man's friends, and what that brings to his life and what you need to look for. But we do need to shift and share 4 negative aspects of unhealthy friendships that can affect your relationship between you and your partner. So the first one is negative influence or just peer pressure. So if his friends have a very different values, very different lifestyles or attitudes towards relationships, they may negatively influence him. So for example, if they don't respect boundaries or have unhealthy behaviors such as, you know, excessive drinking, partying, casual sex, infidelity, it could create tension between the two of you if those are things that bother you. Then there's the time management issue. So if your partner spends way too much time with his friends, it could lead to feelings of neglect or imbalance in your relationship. So it's important for both of you to feel that your relationship is a priority. Number 3, comparison and expectations. If his friends have different types of relationships, there could be some comparisons that create unrealistic expectations. So, for example, seeing his friends who live a certain lifestyle or have a different dynamic could impact how he views your relationship. If it's successful or if it's dull and boring, just based off of what his friends may be just saying to him about their relationship. And then number 4, loyalty conflicts. If there is tension or conflict between you and his friends, it could create a conflict for him, leading to stress and straining in your relationship. Brad, do you have any comments about these before I move on?
I think they're all excellent points. I mean, the loyalty conflict kind of, you know, reminded me of my first relationship. It was tough. I know that person did like my friends, and then she liked being in the group with them. But when I was, just going to hang out with them alone and just having a guy time, I never felt that I had total freedom to go do that. I was always worried about how much time, even if it was just like an hour or two while they're in town for the holidays. And so that was a source of, like I said, a source of stress and a source of tension sometimes. I know it's not with you because you encouraged me to go do
Yeah,
those things all the time.
I do love my alone time because it's also, like I said, a great way for me to reconnect with self, just like I mentioned for the lady. So yeah, I mean, it's healthy. So how do you navigate this situation if you are having conflicts with your partner and possibly the impact of his relationships, his friendships? First of all, communicate. Just tell him how you feel about his friendships. Share any concerns or feelings without making him feel like he has to choose between you and his friends. I will say when I was not working on myself and I wasn't working through previous relationship issues, it would be hard for me to confront my boyfriend at the time or even my past husband about these issues. And then when I did, it would almost seem like it would be a threat. So being able to communicate on a regular basis about things that bother you will really help this sort of conversation.
Yeah, don't just hold it in or keep pushing it off or
Yeah.
waiting. It's good to have, if there's something you need to say it, it's good to say it because those friends are not going to go away. And if you think there's some issue that's going to cause you problems in your relationship, that's not going to go away.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
best to at least tackle it.
And so when you can start having this really vulnerable and open communication, it's healthier and easier for you to set these healthy boundaries to ensure that you both have time for each other and for your respective friends. So I know this is the planner in me, but this is one thing that Brad and I do really well is that we have a Google Calendar because we have so much going on. But this is like when you put a date night on the calendar and, oh no, sorry, we got fantasy football league. I'm picking my whoever. And it's like, okay, great. Well, we can shift date night because I understand fantasy football league is pick night is a one-time part of the year. Great. Oh, wait, no, I already planned to have drinks with guys. Well, guess what? You've skipped date night 3 weeks in a row or 3 months in a row. We got to figure out how to set this boundary so that we can still have time for each other. Or maybe you're showing that this relationship isn't as important to you as your guy friends. And then number 3, get involved. So this is really good to do too. Get in with the friend group, build your own sort of relationship with them. This is going to help you create more of an inclusive environment and also reduce any sort of conflict or tension the more that you show up.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, it's important that I believe it'd be important for him to spend time with them as a group, but also, like we talked about earlier, with significant others and have you as part of the group too. I think having both those situations occur on a regular basis is important.
Yeah. And then last but not least, if this is not helping at whatsoever, go back to the communication and reevaluate. If his friends are a negative influence, have that honest discussion about it. Be specific about the behaviors or situations that concern you and see how you can compromise.
Yeah, I mean, lucky for me, that's never really been an issue with my friends. We're all so much alike, and that nobody's been a negative influence. But like in imagining what this situation would be like, just having that conversation, the communication, and laying it out for him, it might put a light bulb on in his head, saying, "Oh, you're right. This isn't their behavior is a negative influence and caused me to do this, and now it's harming my relationship with you. I want to, stop that or cut way down on that, or at least be aware of that problem and maybe not end my friendship with them, but say, hey, that stuff's not for me anymore. I'm
Yeah.
trying to work on my relationship, and I'm not going to do those things or whatnot." So, I think that's probably a pretty common issue among women or relationships between men and women, whether you're, dating, engaged, married, that doesn't get talked about. It just, goes and goes and goes until it's a fight.
Yeah. Well, and so here's the cool thing. Most people, like their level of awareness is a lot lower than we think. And so when we have these conversations and say, hey, you know what, I've just been noticing that when you're going out with your friends, you're coming home at 5 a.m., you've been wasted, you're doing X, Y, and Z, you've been damaging the car, I've seen you passed out on the road or whatever. Like I sadly had a relationship that had excessive drinking. And I would have to say, hey, I personally don't see how this relationship can continue if you keep coming home and doing these things weekend after weekend. And if that is what you want to keep doing, then we need to move on.
Right.
And to be honest, I never even bothered to have that first conversation saying, hey, I think there's a problem with your drinking. And it's only showing up when you go out with this one friend. And it caused a huge fight. And rightfully so, like it was a problem in that relationship. But he was starting to realize maybe I should put some boundaries in with this friend. And he had that opportunity and he never really did. And that was a part of our ending of our relationship because I didn't want to live a lifestyle where I would wake up to use the restroom at like 2 or 3 in the morning and he's not home. There's that freaking worry and, concerned, is he out drinking? Did he get into a car accident? All of those thoughts trickle in and start to cause anxiety issues within the relationship.
Now, I can imagine that would be really difficult. Like I said, I've been lucky with my friends, but I'm sure your situation is much more common than anybody thinks. Your past situation, and that happens a lot with guys. And sometimes they might choose their friends, and sometimes they might choose a relationship. But for your listeners, I think it's just important to have that conversation. Don't let it get too far.
The last thing you want to do is push something like that underneath the rug.
Right.
I actually have friends that have pushed those issues underneath the rug, gotten married, had the baby, and that was the wake up call. Oh, we now have a baby. I can't drink until 5 a.m. And depending on how your relationship goes, that could be a long-term issue that you're going to have to constantly deal with. And I'd only pick out that one because it's easier to call out than other issues that might be able to set more boundaries. So just something to be aware of. Like I said, again, though, look for those green flags. There's a lot of good men out there who actually have really healthy and strong relationships with their friends. Honor that. Make sure that you make space for yourself because you need that as well. And you'd also deserve time with your friends. Do you have anything to add to that right now, Brad?
No, I think you've done a great job at that. You encourage me a lot to hang out with those friends and, help me make this Portland trip happen. And like you just said, I know that when I'm gone, you enjoy, your time alone, and we don't have to be in constant contact.
Yeah, that's
You
another.
don't need to text me. You don't need to check in.
That was
You
not
know,
true this time because I'd be like, where?
well,
I would wake up in the morning and be like, we had the best time on the beach. And I'm like, I got this at 4 a.m. And I'm like, wait, what time is that in Portland? Oh my God.
it's earlier out there. But yeah,
I know.
but you're good about doing your own thing when I'm gone, and that makes you happy.
Well, yeah, because you trust me too. So you're not having to
I don't have
check
to
me
worry.
in.
Exactly. I mean, exactly right. The opposite's true. Like, I don't have to worry about what you're doing while I'm gone. I know you're taking care of yourself and doing self-care and doing work and getting things done you want to get done and taking advantage of the time alone. So,
Well, yeah, and building the other friendships that I have here that also builds into our couple friendships. So, all right, ladies, thank you so much for joining us for the couch conversation. Brad, you were going to make a joke. Did you want to say that?
well, technically, this is our first dining room table conversation.
It's just a
But
better setup today.
it is easier to do here.
All right, ladies, thank you once again for joining the podcast. Hit subscribe or follow so you never miss an episode. If you would like, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts because I love to read them when I can see them. If you would like to have any other sort of form of support, join my email list. Like I mentioned earlier in the episode, I'll put a link in the show notes. Or if you are looking for a coach to help you reinvent your love life from the inside out, you can go to my website and book a 30-minute call. All right, talk to you ladies next week.
Thank you for joining me on the Reinventing the Arena podcast. I'm your host, Molly Connolly, a relationship coach devoted to helping women reinvent their love lives. Tap the subscribe button so you never miss out on an episode. You can always find me on Instagram at Reinventing the Arena or learn more from me on my website at reinventingthearena.com.